The Daxamites thought they had won the war after their vicious final assault crushed the Krull homeworld, but little did the aliens know, the humans were coming to rain cruel vengeance upon the battlefield. Vincent Gray jolted awake inside the cryopod, frost crackling off his grizzled beard as the pod hissed open. Odin's synthetic voice rang through the Valhalla's speakers. An urgent communique just came in from the Daxamite homeworld. Vincent smashed the pod release, climbing out and grabbing his rifle. The Daxamites, this better fucking be an alert that my next paycheck is inbound. The ex-Special Forces operative had led his team of human mercenaries to bail out the pompous aliens 2 standard years prior. Now the jarheads interrupted his cryo-sleep. He snatched up his sidearm and stormed to the bridge. Odin silently queued up the message. Horus, the Daxamite commander, flickered onto the view screen. His once regal uniform was shredded. Blue blood leaked from his brow. "Vincent, we miscalculated. We thought it was over. It's not." Horus flinched as an explosion rocked his bunker. "The Krull, they've returned. Our outer colonies are burning. Our homeworld defenses won't last more than a few rotations. Our armies are devastated. We have no one else to turn to." Vincent's fists coiled tight. The Krull. Those savage aliens had waged a pitiless war of extermination against the Daxamites for eons. Vincent and his human strike force had turned the tide, leading the final Daxamite counter-assault that shattered the Krull's lines. Or so they all believed. Horus's voice grew raw with desperation. "Vincent, get here at once. I'm sending coordinates for a rendezvous point. And make haste. You're our last hope." The screen went dark. Vincent shook his head, cursing under his breath. He'd earned his hefty payment. This wasn't his fight anymore. But his gut told him if he didn't step in, there would be no Daxamites left to hire him ever again. Odin set a course for those coordinates, spin up the slipstream drive. Vincent headed to the cargo bay to prep his powered armor. "Time to finish what we started. Tell the boys to gear up." As the Valhalla's engines roared to life, Vincent checked the magazine on his Gauss rifle. Damned aliens always needed humans to save them from themselves, it seemed. He growled a chuckle. "All right then, let's show them what happens when humans enter the fray." The Valhalla blasted through the darkness of space, engines roaring as she raced towards the Daxamite homeworld. In the ship's armory, Vincent fired off a series of encrypted messages to his old team. Reaper, the stoic sniper who never missed. Fury, the wild-eyed demo expert always itching to blow something up. And Ghost, the infiltrator who could slip in and out of any stronghold undetected. Within minutes, confirmations pinged back. They were all in, ready to save some alien hides and earn a hefty paycheck doing it. As the team assembled in the armory, Vincent laid out the situation. "Listen up. Looks like our blue-blooded buddies didn't stomp the Krull as hard as we thought. Those bastards are back and they're burning Daxamite colonies left and right. The Daxamite fleet is in shambles. They need us, now." Reaper, methodically field-stripping his rifle, spoke up. "Why should we stick our necks out for the Daxamites again? We did our job last time, not our problem anymore." Vincent, usually as cold as the void outside, fixed Reaper with a stare that could melt steel. "Because it's the right thing to do. The Krull aren't just the Daxamites' problem, they're everyone's problem. If we don't stop them here, they'll just keep steamrolling over every world they can reach. Sooner or later, that'll include Earth." He swept his gaze over the team. "We've got a chance to nip this in the bud here and now. We let the Krull get too strong, and there won't be anyone left in the galaxy to hire us. I'm not about to let that happen." The team exchanged glances, surprised by Vincent's uncharacteristic display of principle, but they trusted him. If he said this needed doing, then it needed doing. As they began gearing up, strapping on armor and checking weapons, the Valhalla's alarms suddenly screamed to life. Odin's voice boomed over the comms. "Alert! Distress signal received from nearby Daxamite colony. Colony under heavy Krull assault, requesting immediate assistance." Vincent cursed under his breath. The colony wasn't part of the plan, but he knew they couldn't ignore the call. Every Daxamite gun in the fight mattered now. He keyed the comm. "Odin, change course. Get us to that colony, pronto." As the Valhalla dropped out of slipspace near the colony, the scale of the attack became horrifyingly clear. Krull warships swarmed over the colony like locusts, hammering the surface with plasma fire. The few Daxamite fighters still in the air wheeled and slashed at the attackers, but it was a losing battle. In the drop bay, the team stood ready, weapons charged and helmets sealed. Vincent's voice crackled over the squadcom. "All right, boys, let's show these Krull bastards what humans are made of. Ghost, you're on recon. Find out where the Krull are concentrating their forces. Reaper, find a high point and start picking off their leaders. Fury, wreak some havoc on their supply lines, and I'll take the fight to their front lines." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Remember, we're not just fighting for the Daxamites, we're fighting for all the worlds the Krull would destroy if they're not stopped. Now let's give 'em hell." The bay doors yawned open, revealing the chaos of battle below. Vincent leaped out, his team right behind him, plunging into the fray with jetpacks roaring. They hit the ground running, weapons spitting death, tearing into the Krull with a ferocity the aliens had never encountered before. Against all odds, Vincent and his team began to turn the tide, their skills and fury sowing havoc and confusion among the Krull ranks. But the battle was far from over, and the Krull were quick to regroup, marshalling their superior numbers against the human interlopers. As the smoke cleared over the Daxamite colony, Vincent and his team gathered in the command center. Zell, the tall, slender Daxamite governor, rushed over to them, his face a mixture of relief and gratitude. "I cannot thank you enough," Zal said, clasping Vincent's hand. "Without your intervention, our colony would have been lost." Vincent nodded, his eyes still scanning the horizon for any signs of another attack. "Just doing our job, Governor." "But you've done so much more than that," Zal insisted. "This colony isn't just a settlement, it's a research outpost, developing new weapons to use against the Krull." This caught Vincent's attention. "New weapons?" "Yes, advanced plasma rifles and power armor. We'd like to share this technology with you and your team. You'll need every advantage in the fights to come." Vincent didn't need to be asked twice. "We'll take it." As Zal's scientists fitted the team with the new gear, an urgent message came through on Vincent's comm. It was Horus, and he sounded desperate. "Vincent, the homeworld is under siege. The Krull have broken through our defenses. They're in the capital. We need you now." Vincent's face hardened. "We're on our way." He turned to his team. "Gear up and get to the Valhalla. We're leaving." Minutes later, they were rocketing through space, the Daxamite homeworld growing larger in their viewscreen. Vincent pored over the intel Horus had sent. The Krull were using infiltration teams to sabotage the city's defenses from within. Vincent formulated a plan. "Ghost, you and your team will hunt down these infiltrators. The rest of us will reinforce the main defenses." As they entered the planet's atmosphere, the extent of the devastation became clear. The capital city, once a gleaming metropolis, was now a smoking ruin. Krull ships swarmed like locusts, raining down destruction. The Valhalla shuddered as Krull fire raked its shields. Fury wrestled with the controls, guiding the ship down to a rough landing in the city outskirts. They hit the ground running. Ghost and her team vanished into the shadows to begin their hunt. Vincent led the others towards the sounds of battle. At the defensive perimeter, they found the Daxamite forces in chaos, crumbling under the Krull onslaught. Vincent leaped into action, rallying the defenders. "Hold the line!" he roared, his plasma rifle spitting blue fire. Reaper took up position on a high point, his sniper rifle cracking as he picked off Krull leaders. Fury lobbed explosives into the enemy ranks, blasting gaps in their lines. Slowly, painfully, they began to push the Krull back. But just as victory seemed within grasp, a shadow fell over the battlefield. Vincent looked up to see a massive Krull warship descending through the clouds. "The flagship," he breathed. "The Krull leader must be on board." The warship's guns roared to life, dealing devastation to the city below. Vincent called for the Valhalla to engage, but the ship was badly damaged and struggling to stay aloft. Vincent made a split-second decision. Reaper, Fury, hold them here. He sprinted for a nearby Daxamite fighter, vaulting into the cockpit. The engines roared to life and he rocketed towards the Krull flagship. This ended now, one way or another. The commandeered fighter shuddered as Vincent pushed its engines to their limits, rocketing towards the looming Krull flagship. Suddenly, his comm crackled to life. "Vincent, it's Horus!" The Daxamite leader's voice was strained. "I have vital information about the Krull leader's weakness. Our spies—" A burst of static cut him off. Through the cockpit viewport, Vincent saw Horus's shuttle careen out of control, trailing smoke. Vincent wrenched the controls hard, aborting his attack run. He raced after Horus's crippled craft. With deft maneuvering, he locked onto it with the fighter's tractor beam. The shuttle's added mass made the fighter sluggish and unresponsive. Krull fighters, sensing vulnerability, swarmed like angered hornets. Laser fire raked across Vincent's shields. Gritting his teeth, Vincent juked and rolled, desperately evading the onslaught while dragging Horus's shuttle to safety. A well-placed Krull shot sheared through the fighter's rear armor, engulfing the engines in flames. Vincent fought with the controls as they plunged towards the planet's rocky surface. The tractor beam sputtered and died. They were going down, and fast. Vincent made a split-second decision. He disengaged the beam, freeing Horus's shuttle. "Horus, get to the city. I'll find another way to deal with the flagship." As the shuttle limped away, Vincent wrestled with his doomed fighter. He managed to level out just enough to avoid being pulverized on impact. The crash was still brutal. The fighter skidded across the jagged landscape, shedding pieces, before screeching to a smoking stop. Vincent kicked open the warped cockpit and hauled himself out, every muscle screaming. He scanned his surroundings, and his eyes landed on a massive Daxamite plasma cannon, a last resort weapon against orbital threats. A desperate plan took shape. Vincent staggered into the cannon's control bunker. Two terrified Daxamite technicians looked up in shock. "The cannon," Vincent barked. "Is it operational?" "Yes, but there's not enough power for a sustained blast," one technician replied shakily. Vincent's face hardened. "Reroute everything to the cannon, shields, life support, everything." "But sir, the city defenses—" "We'll fall anyway if that flagship isn't taken out," Vincent snapped. "Do it!" As the technicians worked frantically, Vincent took control of the cannon's targeting systems. He centered the crosshairs on the flagship, fighting to track its erratic movements. His finger hovered over the trigger, waiting for the perfect shot. The flagship veered. Vincent fired. A lance of blinding plasma erupted from the cannon, piercing the flagship's heart. For a breathless moment, nothing happened. Then the cruel flagship detonated in a cataclysmic fireball, showering the battlefield with fiery debris. Across the city, the Krull forces wavered, thrown into disarray by their flagship's destruction. The Daxamites rallied, seizing the sudden shift in momentum. Step by bloody step, they pushed the invaders back. Amidst the chaos, Vincent limped back into the city, reuniting with his battered but unbroken team. Together, they watched the remaining Krull ships flee into the void. It was a victory, hard-won and costly, but Vincent knew this was just a respite. The Krull would return, thirsting for vengeance, but with Vincent and his team standing with them, the Daxamites would be ready to meet that threat head-on. Vincent limped into the Daxamite command center, his armor scorched and battered, his team close behind. Horus rushed over, his face a mix of relief and awe. "You've done it," he breathed. "You've saved us all." Vincent shook his head. "We did what needed to be done, nothing more." Horus insisted on a grand celebration in their honor, but Vincent declined. They were soldiers, not heroes. They took their payment and prepared to leave, ready for the next job. But as they loaded their gear onto the Valhalla, a Daxamite scout ship landed nearby. The scout rushed out, his face grim. "Commander Horus, urgent news from the front. We've located the Krull's main base." Horus's eyes widened. He turned to Vincent. "This could be the turning point of the war, their base. It houses their primary cloning facility. If we could destroy it. Vincent held up a hand. We've done our part, Horus. This isn't our fight anymore. But his team exchanged glances. Reaper spoke up. We can't just walk away, not now, not when we have a chance to end this. Vincent sighed. They were right. He nodded to Horus. Give us the intel, we'll take care of it. The scout's data revealed a heavily fortified base, hidden in a remote asteroid field. Vincent pored over the schematics, formulating a plan. It was risky, almost suicidal, but it was their best shot. They approached the base in a stealth shuttle, slipping past the Krull's defenses. But as they neared their target, Vincent felt a chill run down his spine. Something wasn't right. They infiltrated the facility, planting explosives at key structural points. But just as they were about to make their escape, all hell broke loose. Krull warriors swarmed from every direction, led by a massive, scarred beast of a Krull. Vincent recognized him from intel reports, the Krull's new leader. The team fought like cornered wolves, but the Krull just kept coming. Fury went down first, buried under a wave of enemies. Reaper took a plasma bolt to the chest, shielding Vincent from the shot. Ghost managed to prime the explosives, but a Krull blade found her before she could detonate. Vincent, last man standing, was driven back, bleeding from a dozen wounds. The Krull leader loomed over him, eyes gleaming with malice. Vincent knew he wouldn't make it out, but he could still finish the mission. With a roar of defiance, he triggered the detonator. The world went white. The facility collapsed in on itself, burying Vincent and the Krull leader under tons of rubble. The Daxamites waited for word from Vincent's team. But as the days stretched into weeks, hope faded. They sent a search party, but they found only the smoldering ruins of the base. No survivors. The Daxamites mourned the loss of their human allies, but they also celebrated. The Krull's cloning facility was destroyed. The tide of the war had turned. In the years that followed, the Daxamites slowly pushed the Krull back. Without reinforcements from the cloning facility, the Krull's numbers dwindled. The Daxamites reclaimed their lost worlds, until finally they stood poised to take the Krull homeworld itself. Faced with annihilation, the Krull surrendered. The war was over, but the Daxamites had one demand, a memorial to be built on their homeworld, a tribute to the humans who had given everything for a world not their own. The Krull agreed, and so on a quiet hillside overlooking the rebuilt capital, a statue was raised. Vincent and his team, cast in eternal bronze, standing watch over the world they had saved. At the base of the statue, an inscription was carved. In memory of Vincent Grey, Reaper, Fury, and Ghost, human warriors who gave their lives for a world not their own, their courage and sacrifice will never be forgotten. It stood as a testament to the bonds forged in war, and a reminder that sometimes the most unlikely of allies can change the course of history. Vincent and his team were gone, but their legacy would endure as long as the Daxamites remembered. The celebration of their victory was bittersweet. Yes, the war was won, but the cost had been high, too high. The Daxamites vowed to never again let their guard down, to never again underestimate the threats lurking in the stars. But they also vowed to remember the humans who had fought and died alongside them, to remember the sacrifices made and the bonds forged. As the Daxamites looked to the stars, they knew that they weren't alone, that out there somewhere there were others like Vincent and his team, warriors willing to fight for what was right, no matter the cost. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.